Hi everyone, my name is Russian Adam, and today I would love to speak about Chinese Oud. This is my composition, and I will talk about why it is a collaboration. I will speak about composition itself, a little bit about the presentation. I will speak about the value of Chinese agarwood and wild Chinese agarwood oil in particular. And finally, I will speak about pricing. So let's go. Chinese Oud is a wonderful collaboration I done with my dear friend, with my brother, Jamira Oud. He is from China. He is an oud collector, oud Kenam grower, oud distiller, and a wonderful person. So we collaborated together, and the target was to achieve something that we could not achieve on our own. And I believe this is the true purpose and the meaning of collaboration. You know, when people get together and they do something that they could not achieve on their own. So what is the idea behind this collaboration? Well, my dear friend, he had some wonderful, very rare, vintage Chinese agarwood oil that he presented to me so that I could compose a composition focusing on this very precious ingredient. Furthermore, he helped me with sourcing some other very rare and unique oils from China, most of which are grown in China and extracted in China. So we have our very wonderful and beautiful rose otto distilled in China. It has some of the most creamiest and delicious smells that I ever experienced in any rose oil. It is particularly known for its sweetness, its creaminess, and its delicacy. It's very, very delicate, it's very soft, it's very subtle, but yet it's so creamy and sweet and almost buttery, almost like sandalwood. It's totally different from Taif or Indian rose. It is a very, very unique material. Then we have our gardenia, extracted in China, again sourced and provided by my beautiful friend, and wonderful indolic, very, very intense jasmine absolute, again grown in China and extracted in China. Very, very unique, the most indolic, the most piercing jasmine that I ever experienced. And all of these natural, stunning materials actually were grown and extracted in China. Moreover, we have our old stunning Mysore sandalwood that we together sourced, and then it was again custom extracted in China with the help of my dear friend. So all of these amazing ingredients combined into this wonderful composition, and I could really never achieve something like this without collaborating with my wonderful friend, and I thank him for this. So let's speak about the composition itself. The Chinese oud used in this composition has a very, very intense, slightly animalic, bitter, sweet, piercing character. It is a typical for Chinese Hainan agarwood distilled in more traditional way, and it is quite valuable, and we will soon speak about it. The composition itself, however, is very approachable and it's very, very wearable. That was my personal challenge as a perfumer, to take this very wild and, you know, very aggressive in a way agarwood oil and combine it with all these other natural beautiful ingredients in order to produce a composition that is wearable, that is likable. And Chinese people in general, they hate animalic notes. They absolutely hate, those fecal barnyard type of oud oils. And it was a challenge, because this particular oud oil is one of my personal favorites. It is distilled in this traditional manner, it is having those, fecal facets and animalic facets, but it just, to me personally, it just amplifies this beautiful profile, this bitter sweetness, and this unimaginable depth. However, in this perfume, I wanted to kind of hide this wild nature and present it in a more modern, unique, and friendly way. So for this very reason, I used a very bright, fresh, citrusy, almost fruity opening notes. I combined a very unique boozy aldehyde accord that I composed myself with orange, a typical Chinese type of smell, and bergamot. So this is like extremely bright, fresh, almost fruity opening, what you're gonna get in Chinese Oud. And very fast the composition moving towards its heart notes. Its heart notes dominated by the Chinese, wild Chinese Sinensis agarwood oil. It has this wild character, but it is, made more prettier and more friendly using those precious floral notes. So that's what you're gonna get in the heart notes. A lot of Chinese bittersweet oudiness, this amazing depth that it provides, amazing satisfaction to olfactory senses that it provides personally to me as an oud lover, and decorated with these beautiful florals here and there. And the base notes are classical French Chypre type of base notes. We have our oak moss, we have our old, very deep, smooth, buttery, creamy sandalwood wrapped in a patchouli and few other secret ingredients. So this is really like a classical yet modern type of composition where the Chinese Oud really stand out, and I think it's quite unique because so far I never tried any perfume that truly focused on wild Chinese agarwood oil, this particular scent profile, bitter sweetness, amazing depth, and lots of delicious animalic fecal facets. Now let's briefly speak about the value of Chinese agarwood oil. And it is very funny because actually China is known to be a producer of very affordable goods, as you probably know. However, when it comes to agarwood, it is the opposite. Chinese agarwood, wild, old, incense-grade Chinese agarwood, is extremely valuable. And it is, I could easily say, one of the most expensive agarwoods in the world in terms of the origin. So if we compare wild Chinese agarwood with the identical grade of agarwood from, let's say, Indonesia, India, even Cambodia, that the Chinese variety will be times more expensive, maybe 3, 4, 5 times more expensive than identical grade from elsewhere. And this is actually the reason why I myself never ever distilled high quality incense grade Chinese agarwood oil, because it is extremely expensive. And if I would do it today, it would cost me like minimum maybe $1,000 per kilogram of Chinese agarwood, and it's not going to be a very high quality agarwood. It will be, the minimum incense grade agarwood with good resonation, but not extremely resonated and not with a very, very complex scent profile. But it will be a good agarwood for making oil. With this agarwood costing $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000 per kilo, I could distill maximum 1 bottle of oud oil. So it means like, a Medicor incense grade agarwood oil produced today easily would cost me over $1,000 per bottle. And I realized that it is not feasible. For this money, I can make an amazing quality agarwood Indonesian, let's say from Malinao, or even Indian, or agarwood from elsewhere, Sri Lanka, Filipino, we can easily make 5 times higher quality agarwood oil for this money. For this particular reason, agarwood oil from China, wild agarwood oil from China, is extremely rare. The vintage agarwood oil from China, the agarwood oil that has been kept for a long time and it's aged, it's matured, it is even more rare and expensive and hard to come by. So I'm really blessed, to have an opportunity and been given those huge amount of this precious agarwood oil that I'm able to use in my composition. Let's touch pricing, because its value dictates the price. So let's compare this Chinese Oud, for example, with my Russian Oud perfume. Russian Oud perfume contains maybe similar amount of oud oil. I would say maybe a bit less. However, it focuses on Indian and plantation Thai agarwood oil, which is times more cheaper. So here you get it, it's so simple. We used cheaper agarwood oil in Russian Oud. It smells amazing, but its value is less than wild Chinese agarwood. So I've been able to sell it for like what, $250 per bottle. So this agarwood is times more expensive. And the amount I used, I believe it's a bit more. Some might say, okay, what about perfumes like Antiquity or other perfumes where you used vintage agarwood oil as well, and they were extremely cheaper? Let's say, I don't know, Ottoman Empire, for instance. Original Ottoman Empire contains very rare, wild, old Indian agarwood oil, over 20 years old, I believe. However, if you notice, the description mentions in particular that it contains, I think, 3 or 2 types of Indian agarwood oil, including traces of very old vintage Indian agarwood oil. Another example, Antiquity, let's say, another beautiful composition that I composed utilizing very old vintage Cambodian agarwood oil. It was even older, maybe, I believe from 1975. Again, it was in a small amounts. It was never such a huge amount that I use this time in Chinese agarwood. This time my friend presented to me the entire batch from his own collection. It was quite a large amount, and all of it is being used, and it truly, shines in the heart of this composition. So this is, I believe, explains why the price is different, why we have our Russian Oud utilizing plantation agarwood oil that cost $250 for 50 ml, why we have our Antiquity with a smaller, much smaller amount of wild vintage Cambodian agarwood oil utilized in there. And here we have $350 for 30 ml extract the perfume Chinese Oud utilizing very huge amount of wild vintage Chinese agarwood oil. Some people wondering whether we're going to keep our prices at this level, like now every single extract by Areej le Dore gonna cost $350 or more. Obviously not. We base our prices according to the ingredients we use. If it is plantation agarwood oil, like Russian Oud, it costs accordingly. If it is a small amount of vintage agarwood oil used, we mention this, like in Ottoman Empire, if it is traces amount, and it costs accordingly. If it is a slightly bigger amount of Cambodian vintage agarwood oil, like we done in Antiquity, it costs less. And obviously now we have a much larger amount of wild vintage Chinese agarwood oil used, so it is priced accordingly. In the future, I have many plans, and there will be perfumes in the same price category. There will be perfumes much cheaper, much more affordable. There will even be perfumes much more expensive. I'm working on extracting Kinam, essence, and many other projects to come. If the cost of raw materials going to be low, then obviously the perfume going to cost less. It will be very affordable. If cost of raw materials will be extremely high, then we will price it accordingly. Finally, I would love to mention a few things about the presentation and the release date. Presentation this time is not different than any other releases. We try to, utilize as many art forms as possible, traditional Chinese calligraphy being used, and the name Chinese Oud being written by the artist. It will be used in the presentation. And there are a few other unique elements that I'm sure you're gonna love, and I'm sure you are excited about, and they will be revealed by the time of release. Unfortunately, now we are not certain when it's gonna be, and we will keep you updated as soon as possible in advance so everybody can be prepared. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy my small chat about our upcoming Chinese Oud. See you next time.